Perfect. Well, we'll begin for the sake that everybody is here. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining our session today. I'm Christina Tennyson from Business to Bruce. And before we get started here, this is part of our Crafting Memorable Customer Experiences webinar series. I'm happy to have Cheryl here from Utterly Ridiculous Farm Life to share a case study on some things that they have done and some things that might be able to put into practice in Bruce County. Before I hand it over, I'd like to introduce Lauren at the Hub, just to give a little update on what's happening in here on Kinloss.
Yeah, thanks so much, Christina. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Eby, and I'm the Business Development Coordinator from the Township of Huron-Kinloss and the Hub. And the Hub is a space in Huron-Kinloss to co-work and grow business. So we offer free business consultations, a co-working space, and dedicated offices to work from, in connection to resources and supports for you to succeed in your business. So we actually just moved to a brand new location in Ripley, just around the corner from our old location at 84 Huron Street. So we are looking forward to opening back up to the public in a couple of weeks. So if you are in the area, please drop by and say hello, or work from our offices if you need a distraction-free zone to get your to-do list done. So thanks so much for letting me introduce the Hub here, Christina, and I'll pass it back over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. So yeah, Business to Bruce, if you're not familiar, we are the Small Business Enterprise Center located in Bruce County, Ontario. Our big focus is supporting businesses in our community, whether that be someone looking to start up, to expand, pivot, whatever sense of that growing and changing that may be. So we are really looking forward to this session. Once again, this is part of our Crafting Memorable Experiences. And I think this is going to be a great opportunity to see our location grow and bring in more experiences for these tourists, as well as locals who are driving by our door anyways. Before I pass it over, I'd like to let you know we have this session will be recorded. I will be sharing these resources afterwards. And if you have any questions, please feel free to include it in the chat. Let us know what you're looking to take from this experience. And if there's anything else that my team can do for you, I'll include my contact information in the chat, and you're welcome to reach out. So without further ado, I'm proud to announce Cheryl and present Cheryl. I'm really happy to have her here today. And as you're going to find out, she's a phenomenal woman, and some great things that are happening in her community that she's able to share with us. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. I don't know about phenomenal, but nothing like setting me up for a deep dive fall, but we'll take you through a little bit of our story today. And thank you to those of you that are already putting some stuff in the chat box around what you're hoping to accomplish. We'd love to be able to deep dive on some things if you're interested in those. And I want to make sure that you get your questions answered as much as possible too. So at any point along the presentation, feel free to just pop some things in the chat box, and I'll try and keep an eye on that and give you an opportunity to ask the kind of questions that you're hoping for. So wanted to really give you a bit of our story and the background on how the heck we got into tourism and where that whole thing came from. So I'm gonna, hopefully this works. We tested it out earlier and seemed to work, but I find a cute little video is always
Sorry,
nice.
Cheryl, before you hit, I think your chat box is over half of the video.
Oh, let me.
If you just want to move that over or pin it to the side. We can't see it, we just see a black box though.
Okay. So I think it's because of the video, actually, because my chat box is closed.
Okay.
So now, can you see it properly now?
We see the black box, but we can see the video area, no problem.
Okay, so I will try and move that. So that's letting me see you. I'm going to see if I can actually make it smaller. Just means I won't see you. Hopefully that works. All right, let's try this out.
Udderly Ridiculous started as a goat milk ice cream company, but we've evolved from there to open our farm up to bring people on site to do on-farm agri-tourism. So you get all the backstories, you get the history, you get to interact with all of the animals and the farm and the land and food production. The idea of Utterly Ridiculous really came out of a challenge in the industry. And so as part of that, we started thinking about what he's always wanted, which is a product from the farm.
This is the farm that I grew up on. I've always wanted to be closer to the customers and create a product.
And so I came up with the idea of ice cream.
I thought this would be a really cool experience. And with ice cream, you put smiles on faces.
One of the big things that we really value is high quality ingredients and as locally sourced as possible. Our next step was either invest wholly in large retailer listing fees and getting yourself on all of those shelves, or bring something closer home and saying we want to support rural Oxford, we want to support our neighbors and not just be on a store shelf. It led us to open up a new branch and invite people in to experience what it means to be a small family-run farm. The support that we've gotten from our rural Oxford partners has just been instrumental in helping us start to grow the business, but also get me in touch with a network that helped kind of back us and support us.
I love being part of the creativity the farm now is involved in.
The next big goal is to produce a high quality experience and continuing to grow across Canada.
So that was a video that was put together in conjunction with Rural Oxford. And so that we've had the opportunity to work with our local tourism partners to do videos and do imagery and really support. So one of the things as we go along, hopefully there'll be some tips, but one of those is reaching out to people like Christina and finding out what support is available and what networks are available and how to get connected into those. I worked at a resort when I was really young, but I don't have a full tourism background. And there are people who have been doing this longer. And so finding those opportunities is really one of the key things to getting connected in your area. The whole thing though started as a love story. And so doesn't everything start as a love story? There was a city girl who met a country boy and she walked away from that interaction and said, I will never marry a farmer. And then this happened. And I had a lot to learn about farming and agriculture. And you know, we've got 4 boys between the 2 of us and being able to figure out that whole life. I had a full-time career. My husband, as you can see, is a full-time dairy goat farmer. And as we started, you know, building and moving forward together, one of the things that came up was farm succession. And we were planning on how do we actually move the farm forward for the future? How does it support the generations that needed to support in order to get his parents kind of off the farm? And so we looked at a number of things and put together a plan for the bank. One of those included expanding the goat dairy, getting some automation and things in to be able to support financially and keep the farm running. But as part of that conversation, as you probably heard in the video, you know, I was trying to figure out, what does Greg really want to do? What is he excited about? And we started brainstorming and having some fun with that, and talked about ice cream and maybe someday doing a Ben & Jerry's type factory tour where we can have some goats on site and teach people things and have tasting rooms and all of that. And then literally we put that off of the business plan. We didn't want his parents to see that. We didn't want to freak them out in any way, shape, or form. And so we put it aside. We thought, you know, it's a great idea and it was a fun conversation, but don't really think we're going to go there. And in fact, we definitely don't want to have anything here on the farm other than the farm. And so I've realized now I should never say never to anything, because suddenly those things materialize in my life. And I'm always careful now what I say never to. What changed things though was there was a significant challenge in the industry And one of the big producers of cheese products and a number of different products stopped taking a lot of the Ontario milk, and it collapsed some of the industry. Many farmers weren't able to sell their milk, or they were getting 50 cents on the dollar. Some had to go out of business. It affected our farm as well. And we looked at that and we were heartbroken by what was going on and by the lack of advocacy and the lack of support and the ability for something as simple as a shareholder value to collapse, you know, an entire industry. And so we looked at how do we protect the long-term viability of the farm, and how do we create something and new products that have an opportunity for our neighbors to also have a place for their farm milk to go, hopefully at some point. And that was what generated us putting this whole idea of developing an ice cream brand back on the table. So we went through a whole lot of work to figure that out. I wasn't a food scientist. In fact, I was working full time. I had a career that I really enjoyed. And so we sat there talking to each other and we said, you know, this is ridiculous for us to start a business we know nothing about. We're both working like crazy people full time. How are we going to do this? This isn't just ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. And that's where the name came from. Because that was our life. We're like, I can't believe we're doing this. But we dove in and we started seeing some success. We launched into the marketplace in 2019. People were excited about the product. We are now available in over 300 retail stores. But that whole industry is really challenging. It's very low margin. You have to have a lot of volume, and there's a lot of fees when you go to big retail stores. At the same time, of course, COVID hit in 2020, and we were no longer able to do sampling. We couldn't do events. We weren't being able to educate people or let them taste the product. And so it created a very significant challenge. And people kept asking us a number of things. And so even though we had won awards, even though, you know, we had some media attention and people were really enjoying the product, it still wasn't enough volume for us to keep going forward. And so I'm going to ask you, if you haven't already gone back to your chat box, to have that ready, because I'm going to put up a multiple choice questionnaire here. So why do you think we went into tourism? You can go ahead and put in the chat box what your answer is. See some, all of the above question mark. Yeah.
Agri-tourism.
Yeah, we went into agri-tourism because of all of the above. We, of course, as I mentioned, COVID became a really significant issue, and the concern was that we would go broke. The next big investment into it would have been, you know, close to $90,000 in order to pay listing fees to get on big retail shelves. It takes a lot of money in marketing to get people to recognize it. And with COVID, we just weren't sure we would have the runway in order to get there in time because of the margins and so many other things. And we were such a sensitive product, we can't just ship it in the mail. But we also were having this conversation with people who really loved our product, who wanted to come to the farm and pick it up, who wanted to do goat yoga, who wanted to really understand where their food was coming from. And so we started thinking about, would this be possible? Can we get over the fact that we didn't really want to open something on the farm? And so as we started planning out what would be possible and how that might look, my father-in-law actually got ill, and we found out we only had a very short period of time for him. So in 2020, December, he got ill, and we found out in January of 2021 that we had a very short period of time. So we sped up the entire process of getting this done and ready and open so that he would be there and available to greet people and have a very different kind of retirement. He still was working like 6 days a week, and we wanted him to have something more meaningful and fun and get him off of the harder jobs that he constantly wanted to do. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it that long, and we still had the plan in motion though. And so Cheryl isn't saying is a bit of a joke, but it's not. Being able to take all of this on was a little bit crazy, and the time frame that we did it in was absolutely nuts. We really decided at the end of January to move forward with this entire adventure, and we had to clean out like driving sheds that had stuff in it from 1975. So we had a lot of work to do, a lot of things to rejig, a lot of work and construction that needed to happen just on paddocks and things like that to be ready for a July launch. And so lots of considerations need to go into something like this. We had to work through the fears and concerns we had about, you know, people like PETA who, or, you know, vegans who are very much against the kind of, you know, just being a dairy, for example. We were really terrified about bad press because of someone showing up at a farm and you know, making it out to be something it isn't. We had to go through that and really just inviting people. Our house is here on site, and so to be open all the time to people all of the time was a consideration we had to really think through. We had to split not only, you know, money, but we had to split my thinking, my time, my strategy, because what we're doing for ice cream and the farm is very different than what you need to do for tourism. It requires a lot of different skill sets. Being able to train animals and work with animals is a lot different than creating ice cream. And so being able to figure out what we needed for skill sets, who I needed to tap into, what human resources we needed both internally and externally, and how to get the capital that we needed and the technology we needed in order to do that. It also required me to do a lot of rapid prototyping. And what I mean by that is I have really big visions. I can see the vision from the start to the beginning, and I don't like to go from A to B to C. I'd rather just go right to A to Z and have everything perfect and done. And that's not the reality, and it certainly wasn't the reality in COVID. So there's still things that aren't done or aren't done to the way that I want them to. So you have to really balance off this. How do you get started and manage what you already have and do that in a way that invites people into that story, into that adventure? And people really understand that, and they like that, and they appreciate the authenticity. You know, when there's a pile of manure there, don't try to hide it. It's a pile of manure. So how can you bring that into the discussion and help people understand what that's about? And so that was something I had to really wrestle with and had to manage. We also had a lot of contractors that didn't show up and lots of things that weren't available due to COVID. And so that became a bit of a challenge, just managing how to get us on time and on track and how to open for when we wanted to open. With what we needed in place in order to develop and execute on the experiences that we started. So I did take a course. So for those of you that are looking at getting into experiential, there's a course called Unlocked and Inspired. And it's all about experiential tourism and experiential learning. They have an amazing facilitator that runs it. It was a virtual class at that point. I don't know if it'll ever go back to in person. But I did take that, and at that point, they talked to you about creating an experience. For me, I'm a bit of an A-type personality, and instead of creating one experience, I actually created a multitude of experiences that we launched on the farm starting in July. So we do a goat yoga class. I have a yoga teacher that comes in and works with the goats. We have a thing called Goat Recess, which is essentially a great big pasture with a goat, what I would call it like a goat obstacle course that we take people through, and they get a chance to interact and feed the animals and run them through the obstacle course. We do alpaca encounters. We have 13 alpacas here on site. We do alpaca walks through our farm fields. So we were able to create some pathways through our working farm in order to give people not just an experience with the animals, but an understanding a little bit about the land that they're on. And then our big experience, which is actually now a signature experience with Southwest Ontario Tourism, is called A Taste of Farm Life. It's a 2.5-hour experience. It goes into the stories of the farm and of my father-in-law. It goes into experiences with the animals, with the soil, with food production. People get a chance to taste food along the way and have the kind of conversations that they want to have about food supply and agri-tourism and farm and dairy and the ecology and worms and all of those things. So we have these kind of depths of experiences and conversations along the way that really give people a really different insight into what goes on into real farming, but with the interaction of animals at a smaller scale. So that's been a really exciting and fun program to be running, and it really builds legacy into our farm, and something we'd really hoped that my father-in-law would have been a part of, and now he's a part of it through the stories and through the places that we take people along the farm. When we talk about prototyping and pivoting and doing all those things, partway into the year that we started, which really started in July, so we really only had half a year, we started learning a number of things about the people that were coming, but I was also finding we have a farm store, and one of my big goals was to support at least 50 Ontario producers in their products, knowing how challenging it is to get a product to market. I wanted to really create an opportunity to support those brands and brands I've come to love and care about along the way. But the challenge is you're not getting to taste a lot of those. And so one of the ways I felt I could get people buying more of those products and tasting those products was to create another experience. So I created what's called alpaca picnics, and it literally took off, and people were incredibly excited about it. It was a great opportunity to introduce people to local food, and it was a great opportunity to have a really intimate experience with our alpacas as well. So we added that on. Then we adapted our goat recess for the basically the rain days, but also the winter. So I'm still running these right now. The goat cuddles, I still run alpaca encounters and alpaca walks, and I do some farm taste of farm life experiences. And then we also had a situation where a number of our experiences are really dedicated more to adults and 16 plus. We have lots of people, of course, that want to bring their kids to do things. We're not a petting zoo. We're really conscious about the way in which we operate and the amount of interaction our animals get with people versus downtime. And so one of the things that we're finding was people were constantly asking to bring their kids and wanting those experiences. So we created a Taste of Farm Life Family Edition that eliminated some of the portions that, kids were maybe bored about because it was too much walking, or the alpaca walk part of it, which is too terrifying for alpacas to have children kind of running around them. And so we created an opportunity for those kids to have a great experience with some of the animals and get some learning that they might not have otherwise gotten. And so creating some of these experiences, we looked at, of course, who our target market is, who are we trying to get to the farm, what are we trying to convey? And that's a really, really big piece of looking at any business, is looking at who are you wanting to really service. Some of you in the Bruce County area, you may have a very specific skill set. You may have a specific kind of geography right around you that you can work with. And that may dictate the kind of experiences you want to run, and therefore the people that you want to bring in. You don't have to do experiences that cater to every single person. You can look at the ways that you have a skill set and what makes the most sense and who's coming to your region, and really make those connections. We have people that drive more than 2 hours sometimes to come to a 1 hour experience. And so people are taking the drive if it's something that they're really interested in doing. In terms of looking at what does this look like from a business perspective, even though we didn't do an entire year, we delivered 255 experiences in 2021. We did 3 events, so 2 private and 1 public event on the farm that was called Taste of Ontario, and was a big sampling event. We had 1,220 different visitors who did experiences. That doesn't include people who just dropped in and came to the store. And that became 36% of our gross revenue, between that and the ice cream. So it didn't include the dairy farm. So this is just what's under Utterly Ridiculous. And so that really was encouraging. It was encouraging to see who was coming. We're getting really great reviews. Most of the time we're getting 5-star reviews. And we have people really coming and excited. And so even though we're only into the first year, even though it's not necessarily profit generating as of last year, we keep going because we get to experience these moments with people where, you know, you have a gentleman who is a full adult running around with goats, laughing like a kid. And you've got individuals we've been able to bring who have disabilities, who are challenged either mentally or physically, and to be able to provide them these kind of intimate one-on-one moments with the animals and with the farm, with people who, you know, are wanting to get their kids integrated into farm. And I remember one group, they brought their 2 kids, and one of their kids was, you know, really into animals, and the other one just was dragged there, like honestly did not want to be there. And at the end of the experience, the child said to me, this was way better than Canada's Wonderland. And so it's these moments that we have with people that enable us to continue day after day and to get up morning, noon, and night to be able to do this work and go, we're doing the right thing. And we're creating these moments that people remember for years to come. We had one lady who was planning a trip to Scotland, literally planning a trip to Scotland so she could see Highland cows. And it happened that the day before I had gone and picked up 2 Highland cow moms and their calves and was able to literally save her a trip to Scotland. She was like over the moon excited. I took her over to meet them. And so it's interesting what people are coming from, what they want to learn, what they want to do, what they want to see, and how we can create these moments for other people. And so for those of you that are thinking about, hey, I want to do this kind of side business, I want to think about how I encourage other people to get into agritourism, to create an experience. You don't have to create 8, depending on what your situation is and your, you know, the area you have to work with and the skills you have to work with, being able to do what you love and bring that to being, to be able to put yourself and your story inside of it is what really brings that to life and makes it unique to you. So although there are lots of people that right now are doing goat yoga, that's a kind of a bit of a trend. There are lots of things that we do here that are incredibly unique just to us and just to our story and our part of the world. Geographically, Bruce County has just some amazing, amazing features, which is very different from Oxford County where we are, where it's a lot of farmland and it's a lot of dairy. And so we have to work within those resources and figure out how that fits into the story that we have. Part of our vision and our direction is all about what I would call, and this is terminology that you're going to hear more and more and more. We certainly heard a lot about the word sustainable, but you're going to hear a lot more about what's called responsible tourism. And responsible tourism is about how do we look at a few different things. One is like the social variables that deal with the community and equity and well-being and quality of life and a number of other things. And inside of this, certainly with the ice cream and now with the on-farm, we do create opportunities to support a local and global agriculture and food sustainability, making sure that people have food, have access to food. And so we're supporting some of those things. When we look at bringing in staff, we're looking at paying them properly, educating them and having them create an opportunity for their career path and being able to give them as well. So it's not just our customers we're providing experience to, it's the staff that we're growing up and learning and helping to really have them come and leave different than when they came and leave better for that experience that they've had here. Obviously, economic, being able to pay bills and keep the legacy of the farm going, being able to continue the work that we're hoping to do, as well as looking at the environmental. So how do we create an opportunity where we're conserving our resources. We're using compostable instead of plastic as much as possible. We're looking at ways in which we steward the land and our animals. I am very conscious about people can't just come and buy feed and just feed and pet our animals all day. That's just not good quality care for the animals. And we don't want bus loads of people just wandering around in the middle of our field. So that's not good when we're a working farm. So we're looking at how do we create opportunities and experiences that can manage all of these areas, that can help us to continue to move towards full regenerative agricultural practices and help people understand the differences in the spectrum of agriculture and the importance of agriculture across all of those spectrums. So we're doing a lot of different things. We're doing education. We're giving people fun. We're giving people opportunities to connect with their food and to give back in multiple ways. And so we really, really like to be able to touch all of those areas and to do that in a way that I would say helps us to live out our values. And so when we begin to live out our values, it becomes a lot easier to do the work and to deal with the ups and downs that come along with that. What it does or is doing for us, and what is really important, I think, for us to understand, and for anyone who's looking at doing something like this is, why are you doing it? What's the purpose of that? Sometimes those purposes are meaning filled. Sometimes those are revenue filled. Sometimes those are need filled. And sometimes it's a number of those things put together. And so for us, it was really important to have a level of diversification. And so it was an opportunity to give our ice cream brand legs and a chance to survive past something like COVID. But also, if the wholesale business of that can't be sustained, like right now we're constantly facing increased pricing on ingredients and packaging and all kinds of things, but we're not able to increase the price of our actual product. So you never know what will happen in the future. And so this opportunity, and especially being on our farm, on our property that we have control over, gives us the potential that either supports the brand and adds value and assets to the brand, or can stand alone all by itself and can have its own life. And so that was really important to us to be able to do that, and to be able to ensure that we've got some resiliency in the business built in. In terms of diversity, instead of just diversification, we want to be able to open that conversation. There's so much conversation going on about so many different things, and people are getting those conversations from, Netflix and TikTok and YouTube and, certain, I would say, like, not just videos, but messages that are going back and forth, but we're not really having face-to-face open dialogue. And certainly in the agriculture community, there's less opportunity to have that face-to-face dialogue with the public on what our food systems are really like, and about what soil means, and about what farming actually looks like in Ontario and in Canada. So that's really important to us to be able to reach across kind of generations and across diverse audiences, to be able to do that and leave a little bit of a legacy. We hope that our family farm will be here and be available for future generations. And it's getting harder and harder to farm. It's harder and harder to have a product that generates revenue. And so we have to find ways to pivot. I hate the word pivot now. I think everybody does. But you have to adapt to what's going on in the world and in climate and in finance. And sometimes that means figuring out different ways to generate revenue that you can feel proud about. We want to continue to expand and have conversations about regenerative practices, but also conversations about all kinds of different practices and why those practices exist, and helping people understand those instead of simply judging those. One of the things that is really, really, really important, and I can't stress this enough if you're thinking about going into this, is ensuring that you have a really good mobile ready website. And so one of the first things we did was we actually pitched our idea to what's called Spark. And there was some funding available. It was $3,000. And that money we used directly to work with a website designer to develop a really good, high quality website. So when people landed, they knew exactly what we're about. They could navigate what they were looking for easily. They could get in touch with us. They could see some of the videos and things that we're doing. We were lucky enough to be able to get some video, but we were also featured on breakfast television for our goat yoga. So that was able to get us some additional credibility. And so people are able to kind of land and do that, navigate through that, and create an opportunity to connect with us. We also integrated into that, and for especially us, when we have more than one experience, this may or may not be something you want to start with, but having a booking platform that can do a lot of the work for you is really, really helpful. It means not having to do a lot of manual entries and not being overbooked or underbooked necessarily for events. And so Fair Harbor is the system that we use in order for people to book an experience with us and to keep managing that. And it's been a really good way to really keep everything running and moving quite smoothly for us, and eliminating a lot of extra manual work and Excel spreadsheets and Post-it notes and calendars and all that kind of thing. We also created an e-commerce, which basically has all of the things that we have in our shop. Because we didn't really want to go into shipping, we had an offer for curbside pickup. This is something that you have to really decide if you want to do or not. I think if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have bothered with the e-commerce. For us, what we found was most of our guests are coming from an hour and a half, or 2 hours away for many of our experiences. We haven't yet built up a local following. And so people are not just stopping in necessarily. We're not on a main thoroughfare where, you know, someone's going by us all the time and there's huge traffic going by the sign to where we are. So at this stage, that's probably one of the things I would have not bothered to actually invest in. It takes a little bit of work to keep it maintained and up to date, and making sure that if you say you have the product on the e-commerce, that you actually have it available. So that's one thing I would probably do differently if I was to do that. There's lots of things that we still need to do, lots of things that we want to work on. Would love to hear your ideas and thoughts. So if you want to put those in the chat box, what do you think we're going to be working on next? Where do you think we're going to be going with all of this? I would certainly love to hear from a lot of you. In terms of where this is heading, there is a number of things that we want to do to enhance it. We're off next week to a conference, so the Southwest Ontario Tourism Conference, and we were lucky enough to become finalists for the Innovator of the Year Award for Tourism, which is really exciting considering we only launched the business in July of 2021. But we're also really excited about that conference to, again, meet with other people who are doing this, find out what ideas are milling about out there, what people are finding in terms of their guest experiences, and be able to share, not just learning from the speakers that are there, but to be able to share that amongst ourselves. So we're really excited about that. We want to refine our target guests and create videos and imagery and the marketing campaigns that reflect those. So one of the things that we do is we do invest in marketing. We have an Instagram account, we have a Facebook account that we started for our ice cream. And in order to not start from scratch on our tourism experiences, we actually leverage those followers to kick off what was going here at the farm. So now that we've had a chance to do that, we're actually separating those. We actually have an Instagram and a Facebook account specifically now for the Utterly Ridiculous Farm Life, so that we can keep the look and the brand clean. And that's been a really important thing for us to be able to do. So now our goal will be to increase the followership on those, really be able to connect more often, whether that's through social media, through email, but also through spending on ads and through working with influencers. That is often things like blog writers or travel and tourism individuals. We work with our local tourism, both in Southwest Ontario as well as locally in Oxford County, and they've been incredible partners to work with, but we are spending money on that. And so that is budget that you need to set aside to be able to reach the target audiences you want and get their attention and have them coming to see you. So that's been really great. We've had a number of food and travel writers that come, YouTubers that have come and shared the experience that we're doing here last year, and we're hoping to have more of those this year. We're going to be investing a little bit more into guest comfort. Some of the things that we didn't have done last year, we're hoping to be able to get done. We're going to look at trials with the reselling of partners. So we put one of our experiences on Airbnb experience to see whether that would generate anything new and whether that's worthwhile partnership. We also want to trial some corporate learning experiences that I've already designed and have up available to be booked, but we need to do some things in order to not only educate people that we have them available, but also make sure that we've got a lot of the infrastructure in place to ensure that those experiences are really good and the meetings that people have work for them. We've been asked to do some trial with small groups for schooling. We don't want busloads of children running around, given we have alpacas who are a little bit anxious, but we are looking at small, intimate kind of homeschooled or small school classrooms. And we're hoping to do a couple of big events this year, our second annual Taste of Ontario and a new event that will be more towards a cause. So I'm pretty excited about that. And the hope will be that we can actually build a year-round facility. Right now, we actually repurpose what's, for some of you, you'll know what a Quonset is, but it's essentially a half-round steel building, which is not heated and not insulated. So we're working on getting that done. But our hope will be to actually create a facility that has a commercial kitchen, so I can actually do ice cream on site that can be sold on site, so that again, it protects us from any long-term challenges that the wholesale industry might have. I see Christina said educational sessions for elementary and secondary students. So yes, yeah, we're hoping to try that out and see how that experience goes for sure. I do definitely want to give everybody a chance to ask the kind of questions you want, or if there's an area that I just skimmed over and you want me to expand on it a little bit, I want to give you the opportunity to do that and give you the next time. I think we've got about 10 minutes left in our time together. My contact details are on here as well in case you do want to get in touch with me. But I'm gonna, open it up to everyone else. Hopefully I can see people's video now. Let me just stop sharing my screen here in a moment and we can open up a conversation. That was a lot of me talking.
That's fantastic, Cheryl. If people are more comfortable and want to ask their question or want to share their video, I'm also comfortable to turn off the recording.
Awesome. I did notice, and I apologize, I don't see a first name, but how many people does it take to do all of this? It's a really great question.